Hey dudes, patch 0.4 is coming out in less than a week, so here's a list of the 4 things that we're most excited for in patch 0.4. Yeah, that's the intro. But first, be sure to like and subscribe. Over 2/3 of our viewers aren't subbed, so go ahead and do it. It helps more people see our content, which helps us keep doing this. Join our Discord as well, we've got a great community. Alright, so number 1, we spent a lot of time recently testing builds in the campaign and in maps, and this game looks really good when it doesn't have gray Delirium fog all over it. GGG is completely changing in-game juicing with Delirium in patch 0.4, and it's just going to be way better for players. They're clearing fog around players so that we can see mechanics on the ground, finally. They're removing the ability to anoint waystones with Delirium emotions, which heavily cuts down map rolling time. And finally, they are rebalancing Delirium mirrors to be a much more rewarding mechanic. This is a huge set of upgrades all around. It's no longer going to be mandatory, air quotes, to have Delirium on all of your maps. Mirrors will be a competitive mechanic finally, and other mechanics like Abyss will get more of a chance to stand on their own. The next thing we're excited for are the performance improvements that GGG has planned. The 2 most frustrating aspects of playing PoE 2 in high-level maps were the constant Delirium fog and the bad FPS. Those problems weren't mutually exclusive, but they're not just fixing the Delirium fog and calling it a day. In the big reveal, GGG hyped up a 25% FPS increase, but in an interview with writer and YouTuber Destin, Jonathan Rogers revealed that they had seen 100% FPS increases in a lot of cases. They just didn't want to oversell it and then get backlash. They even gave us a side-by-side comparison of old and new FPS, and like they gave us all the data, right? FPS, the frame draw time, all of that, while playing the same build, some relatively particle-heavy stuff, and the difference is pretty noticeable. Like, the game looks a lot better. It may not in 60 FPS on YouTube, but it definitely looks better just on a numbers level, so that's very reassuring. So whether it's 25% more FPS or 50 or even 100, either way, any more FPS is good FPS, so we're very excited about that because that's really been one of the biggest issues with the game so far. It just hasn't felt as good as it should for being a new game. Third on our list are the Pathfinder buffs. Pathfinder is getting huge buffs, right? We're talking about this a bunch already, but we could go on, and we will. At this point, we're just getting hyped up while we wait for the next Path of Building update so we can finalize our leveling guides, but the build is already fantastic. Poison Pathfinder is outrageously strong even on a modest budget in patch 0.3, and just to demonstrate, I dropped Overwhelming Toxicity, cutting my DPS in half. Then I killed the super boss in a few seconds. Pretty good, right? Poison Pathfinder is just getting so many layers of buffs in the coming league. Its damage comes online in Act 2 with the first Ascendancy rather than all the way in Act 3, so you have a much easier time getting through probably the hardest part of the campaign. You'll be completely immune to heavy stun while sprinting thanks to running Assault, now just granting that as a bonus, so you can just sprint everywhere and not need to use Roa. That saves you a bunch of spirit and allows you to gear more cheaply and actually be quite a lot tankier. And then, of course, there's the potential to take Path of the Warrior or Path of the Sorceress and start your specialization, your starting point on the tree at either the Warrior or Sorc starting point, allowing you to do like a completely different build from anything that could exist on any other class in the game. Starting as a Dex class, but then speccing fully into being a caster or a big, bonky mace guy for some reason. You could do that. There's going to be an incredible amount of potential for Pathfinder in the coming league, but of course, Poison Pathfinder's still going to be better than ever. Fourth, and it was hard to narrow this down to just one thing, but we're going with Atziri and the League mechanic. Yeah, we're kind of cheating. The Fate of the Vaal League mechanic looks like the best parts of Synthesis and Incursion Leagues smashed together. There's a ton of depth and complexity in building the temple. It's going to be juicy farm content, juicier than high-end mapping, probably. Atziri is still a tough fight in PoE 1, and she's going to be way better in the coming PoE 2 league. We don't know if she'll have many valuable chase uniques, but we can certainly hope. The interaction of different rooms that are next to each other causing each of them to buff one another, there being the potential to like combine them in certain ways that'll potentially drop different uniques or give different high value currencies is something that just is incredibly interesting. Even just the very basic stuff they showed off, like making strong boxes have 800% increased rarity. That's pretty cool. That could easily turn into divines. So there's a lot of potential for setting up really powerful connections of rooms within the temple and then chain farming those to generate tons of currency. The ability to graft in new arms and legs sounds pretty fun. It was really good in Keepers League and PoE 1 this last go around, and it should be really fun in the coming PoE 2 League. Now let's just talk about some honorable mentions. Druid as a class is very interesting. The idea of a hybrid caster and melee is always fun in pretty much every video game ever, and we don't really know enough about the ascendancies yet to know exactly how that's going to wind up working with the transformation forms, the feral forms that they have. But it's obviously going to be a very fun and exciting class to play around with once we get the chance to do that. Currently, it does look like Titan maybe could be better if you really just focused on playing Bear, but we'll have to see. Hopefully all of that information will become available to players once the PoB update is released, or maybe a little before then. Hopefully that could be data mined somewhat soon. Then there are a bunch of other really fun things too, like the buffs to unique items. There are so many unique items that were previously pretty unusable that are now shockingly really good. Lightning Coil, Perfidy, the list of people talking about like, hey, this unique is really good on Reddit is like ever growing. You can help by adding to it, I suppose. And then the Witch Hunter buffs are also just a really, really fun, interesting thing that's been a very underplayed, underutilized ascendancy for a while, and it actually looks like it might be quite good in the coming league, especially in conjunction with some of those really good new uniques, or updated uniques, I should say. And then the final honorable mention here is just simply the updates to the passive skill tree. GGG boasts that they've added 250 passive skills to the Druid side of the passive tree, so that's going to add a ton more potential to expand warrior builds, to expand Sorc and Witch builds in a totally different direction, whether you want to go in sort of a minion-y type of warrior direction, which is something that definitely hasn't existed thus far, but really could be good, especially in conjunction with some of the new Druid spells. You just never know. There's a lot of new potential that's going to be added into the game by essentially adding a full 15% of the passive tree finally coming into the game. Okay, question time. What are you most excited for in patch 0.4? Like we said, Druid and Bear form didn't quite crack our top 4, but they're 5th, right? Maybe that'll change as the release date draws closer and we learn more about them. You never know. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more PoE content, consider becoming a channel member. Thanks for watching. Bye.